Okay, so I wasn't really planning on doing a video on this, but I didn't really get anything this week that I felt was gonna work, and so I think we'll just make kind of a shorter one, balancing. I've done this before. I'm not really gonna get too crazy in depth. We'll just kind of have fun with it, and you can follow me along. This is definitely not a how-to, but this is actually a crank for Keith Retzler. He is doing a Triumph for BornFree. He's an invited builder, and so I got the pleasure of doing his crank. And so he's got these big bore 750 pistons and the stock rods, some ARP rod bolts, and I got him some small end bushings from Kibble White, and I'm going to get all this fitted. I obviously have already started. I got this ground to 10. I did that last week. I'm going to just start with reconditioning these rods. I already checked Big End to make sure they're around. They checked out good, so they've been disassembled and blasted. So I think the first step is we're going to get these rods ready to go, and we will fit the small end bushings and get them weighed. We'll probably end up having to do a little bit of weight matching, so we will just kind of start there. But again, this isn't a tutorial. This isn't a how-to. This is just kind of, you guys can come along with me while I do it. So at this point, there's a few things I can kind of talk about that I do like to do. I was taught anyway. It's taking this knife edge off the edge of the cap. It also helps to be done on the rod. Usually this is relatively sharp also. I don't know. There's so much information out there. It's so weird, but it's just things that I was taught from different people, and it seems to be effective and makes sense to me, I guess. So if you don't do it, that's 100% fine. It's just what I do. The reason they want to take that edge off is because when you put your shell in, I line up the tab, the tang, whatever you want to call it, on this side, and then kind of snap it into place on this side. Well, what'll happen is you'll shave material off the back side of that. Whether that in real world makes a difference or not, I don't know, but just having one less stress riser makes sense also. So to me, it's worth doing. Sometimes the other thing I'll do is if these holes have kind of a rough finish or weren't machined that great, I have a deburring tool that I'll kind of run down in there, and so that's another thing. So anywhere that you have like a stress riser or just something that doesn't look good, it's not that big of a deal or a bad idea to remove it. You know, even this like casting slag along there, you know, it's ugly. I guess it's maybe machining material too for when they shave this, but either way, there's certain things that just kind of make sense, I guess, but they're not necessarily make or break, you know, type deal. But I'm going to get the small end bushings in here, and then we will drill the hole and hone them to match the pins, which I need to get out because, you know, old pistons, they like to stick. So I'm going to get the wrist pins out of the pistons. We'll put the wrist pin bushings in the rods, and we will hone them to match each other. So let's do that next. Also, before I forget, that's his name on Instagram. That way you can go give him a follow and keep up on the build, but FLYINGPEZ is his handle. Got this one done. This is kind of my favorite part of the whole honing process, but once you get it started, and then you can just have that beautiful, nice gliding fit. I wish you could feel it, but that's my favorite part. But I'm pretty well done with that one, and then I'm going to finish up here, but it's just a nice smooth honing action, and then just do a couple passes and check. And Kibble White stuff's always pretty undersized, so it usually takes a decent amount of material to get into spec, but it's nice and easy. Small ends are honed, and I got the ARP rod bolts in. I checked everything out on the pistons. We've got the pins in and loose now. The assemblies, both, actually everything ended up being really, really good as far as matching. I do have a little bit on the big end of this one to clean up, but for the most part, it's all very, very matched. So I was super happy with that. Piston assembly was 343, shells were 45, small end was 94, and the big end is 297. I'm going to use 75% for a balance factor on this, so 100% of the rotating is 343, and 75% of the reciprocating was like 3 something, but the total is like 669. So our bob weights are going to weigh 669 each. I'm going to get those on, and we're going to spin this up and see where we're at. So I'm hoping we are going to be on the removal side, but we may end up having to put a little bit of heavy metal down here. I'm guessing it's going to be a couple holes, but we'll see. I will get it on the machine and spinning, and we'll find out. I've got the timing wheel on the end there. Bob weights are on, and we've got all the dimensions of the crank here on the screen. I guess that's not technically a screen, but we are going to get this thing spinning up. Oh, not bad. So we are on remove. So it is indicating at angle 58 and angle 51, which are very close, so that's super awesome. And that would be at the lowest point here. This is angle 50 across the bottom there, you can see. Across the bottom here, that's angle 50. So 58, 51 are both the corrections. On the drive side, it's 9, and on the timing side, it's 19. So if I switch to the add, which would mean we were putting Mallory plugs in, it would be on the opposite end, so it'd be up here, which I can't do. There's nowhere for me to add weight on this top part. So that being said, we are going to be removing. So I'm going to make the correction on the outermost edges of these webs here. So both of them will get a couple dimples. I'll probably put, I don't know, 2 on this side and maybe 2 shallows on this side and maybe like 3 deeps over here, and that will kind of get us a baseline, get us started. Also, quick side note, the reason you'll usually see these corrections here, this is a static balance I did at the factory. It's just like quick and dirty. It's right there on like some knife edges. It's just a simple, quick balance. Because of the dynamic balance, that allows me to do left and right, and that's why I make the corrections out here on these webs, and then I have to make them on the furthest out point because that's what makes the most effect. If I, did dimples in here, it would hardly affect anything because it's so close to center. So it's not as exaggerated. The further away you get, the more exaggerated the correction makes. So same reason I add the weights clear out on the edge. But I will sometimes, if it's a big amount, 19's not that much, 9's definitely not that much, but if it's a huge amount, then I usually will do some larger holes here just to get that general mass removed, and then I'll kind of jump out and do my small detailed corrections from left to right over here. So just kind of a little explanation there. I like to use a ball end. That way it's got a nice radius in the bottom instead of having, square corners with a typical end mill. So it does look a little bit nicer. I do think that that's important when somebody gets their crank back and it's full of holes. They should at least look nice. Alright, so we've got the 1 there and then the 3 there. I do have a little round stone that I like to run, just kind of take that edge off of each one of those, but we'll do that all later. I want to get it spun up again and see what kind of correction that made. We definitely made a huge jump here. We went from 9 to 3, so that's great, and then we went from 19 to 10. So it just means we need to remove a little bit more in both of those same zones. Angle 50 there, angle 50, so pretty much right where we were, and then angle 59, so we might be able to push, yeah, we'll push this hole, we'll add another dimple right there, which will hopefully finish that correction. We really don't need a lot, so it'll be a shallow one. 10 will probably require another fairly decent one, I would guess, and then that should take care of that side. But we may just get away with one more go at this. So let's put a couple more holes in it and see where that gets us. Okay, so we had the little bit deeper and then the dimple there, and then we've got our little dimple there that we didn't necessarily need, but I wanted to kind of spread things out because we were so concentrated over here. But I ended up also kind of, you can't really tell, but I took just that top layer off here, just to help kind of remove a little more without having to go deeper with these holes. Again, the deeper the hole is, the less effective. The closer to center, less effective. So taking that outer layer off usually will help a little bit. So I always like to try and make it look nice after. But anyway, we are in our spec. It's less than 1 inch ounce is the goal, so less than 0.5. So we're done as far as the balance goes. Again, I use 75% on this for him, and so having a full width flywheel allows me to do a accurate balance. I do have to tell people a lot of times that those half width, let me hold. A crank like this, I cannot balance. It requires so much material to be added that it's just not possible. So a lot of times I get asked about balancing cranks, and this is the crank, and I always have to say, if it's half width, I can't do it, but this is what it looks like. This is what I'm talking about. I need a full heavyweight flywheel to do the job correctly. So now that we're done with this, I am going to go ahead and get the rods on so you guys can see it all together. We've done that a ton of times, but might as well end this video with a rod drop. The only thing I had left was I went ahead and shaved this bottom cap to match the 297. So this one was 300, and so just had to take a little bit off. Nothing too crazy, but looks really good. Turned out great. So now we can get these installed. So I'm going to take my nuts back off, get these shells into the cap and beam, and we will stretch on the bolts. This crank was 10 under and it mic'd out at 1.6139. So I usually always try and shoot for right there at that, 14 or fat 14, and then that gives me some room to polish. You don't want to actually have much material to polish away. I mean, ideally there'd be nothing to polish away, but you also have to factor in the fact you also have to figure in that you are going to lose some material when you do a polish. So it all just kind of depends, but I'm happy with this. This is exactly where I want it to be. These are the Molly shells. They're made actually here in Iowa, so very cool. But I'm going to wipe down everything before I assemble, make sure we're nice and clean. I do not believe these rods came from this crank. Actually, I'm not sure, but they were separate when I got it, and so I did mark the rods, but I'm just going to put them back. I've got 1 and 2, so we're just going to put 1 on the timing side and 2 on the drive side, just because. So I'm now going to put that tang side in first and line the edge up, and then push this side down until it's seated. And then you'll have a nice square setup. And then that goes the same with the cap. You'll set this side in, and then just slide the side that we smoothed up earlier, so then that way we didn't shave any material off that edge. Same with this one. nice and tight, just like you want it. Okay, so those are ready, and then we've got our assembly lube for the threads and the faces. So the threads get lubed up, and so does that whole flat face of the nut itself. I'm trying to get it in position where you can see. We'll try that. Put a little bit on the journal, and then I'll put a good amount on the shells themselves. Now, I've been talking with Keith a little bit about his build, and his goal is to be able to run, you know, highway speeds fairly comfortably. And so that's kind of been taken into consideration with a lot of what we were putting together. He's doing a lot of really cool stuff with the cylinder and head. It will definitely have a good, unique look to it. I'm very excited to see what he comes up with. I think he's the only invited builder doing a Triumph that I know of. So that's always, it's nice to get to help out with that. Some of you have maybe gone back way into the really early bad videos I did. Well, not to say that these are better, but I have some really early videos of me doing Tom Heaty's engine for his BornFree build. But those videos are a bit embarrassing, to say the least. Two, three, five, six. Beautiful. Now we're gonna do the other side. I can do better. It's so hard to get it to time them. Just, there we go, that's it. Oh, yeah. Boom. Okay, I know that wasn't the best video, but I needed something. I need to stay consistent with uploads. So, Keith Retzler, he's building this for BornFree. Support the Triumph dudes, go follow him. I'm excited to see what he does. It's going to be fun. I don't know what I'm going to do next week, so hopefully I can come up with a pretty comprehensive, cohesive, whatever word sounds good for another video. But I'm super pleased with how this crank turned out, so I guess that's worth something. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what 2024 is going to be like as far as what I'm trying to do with this. But I appreciate everything, anyone and whoever has came through. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it.